his sister, and always his friend. And we covered the gamut. So I think in those kind of relationships, you really get to know someone so intimately and so personally, and the human entity, not the Elvis on the marquee. He used to say, I would say, honey, so many people love you. He said, yeah, but they love Elvis Presley. They don't know little Elvis. And I said, I think they do. And that's the one wonderful thing about Elvis's fans. You love him not only for his extraordinary talent and his looks, but also just for his humanitarianism, his philanthropy. He was such an extraordinary human soul with such generosity.
Yeah.
Pardon me. I love you guys for loving him for those reasons.
And you've got to tell about your feelings about, because this is so cute.
My being coy.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I was a Southern belle, and I was really quite prudish. I was kind of stultified in my emotional growth, I think. So I was in the movie with him, and did you want me to tell them?
Yeah, I guess we got to get to the TGI.
Oh, you want that thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it all happens in 24 hours. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I was Miss Tennessee Universe, and my roommate in the Miss USA pageant was Jeannie LeMay, who was Miss Rhode Island. We became best friends. We were total opposites, but became best friends, and she moved to Memphis to be near me. We're walking down the street one day in Memphis, and we were starving. She said, oh, there's a TGI Fridays. Let's go in there and have a hamburger. She talked like that because she's from New York and New Jersey and Rhode Island area. Let's go in there, we can have a hamburger. And I said, oh, no, Jeannie, we can't go in there. We are two unescorted ladies, and they serve alcohol in that establishment. We'll look like pickups. Thank God for Jeannie LeMay, because she said, are you kidding me right now? She said, move your ass. We're going to hamburger. We're going to get a hamburger. I said, okay. So we're standing in the door waiting to be seated, and we hear this voice call out, and it's T.G. Shepherd. He says, hey, Linda, come over and we'll buy you lunch. And I said, see, we're getting picked up. So we walk over, and we sat with Bill Browder, and I knew him as Bill Browder, but he changed his name to T.G. Shepherd. We sat with him for a while, and his friends, and he bought us lunch, and he said, hey, do you girls want to come to the Memphian tonight? Elvis has rented the theater, and he's showing movies. And Jeannie, without taking a breath, said, yes, we'll be there. What time? I said, Jeannie, we have to model tonight. We have a job to do. No, I'm sorry, we can't come. She said, we'll be there. We'll get substitutes. What time? Had it not been for Jeannie, I might not have ever met Elvis. Certainly under different circumstances if I had. But so we got my cousin Shelley and her friend to model for us that evening, and we got in a lot of trouble because they didn't want cousin Shelley and her friend. They wanted Miss Tennessee and Miss Rhode Island. But Pat Kerr-Tigrit, who lives in Memphis, was my chaperone and the pageant director, and she ultimately forgave me because things worked out that I ran off with a rock star. But we're in the movie theater, and Elvis sat in the center row, and in the center of the center row of the theater, no one was allowed to sit in front of him or on the same row. We all sat behind him. And I sat down, and Elvis kept talking to me. Well, at first I should go back and talk about when he first came in the door. I'm talking to David Stanley, his stepbrother, and the door gets, bang, bang, bang on the door, and the guys run over and open the door, and he said, what the hell? He's got a big, long flashlight. He said, why was this door locked? Oh, sorry, boss, we thought you were coming in the front door. And so he was kind of agitated, and he's flashing the light around, and it flashes on my face, and he goes, oh, hello. The whole demeanor changed right away, and he became that charming Southern gentleman. And he sauntered over to me, and he said, well, hello, honey. And David Stanley said, this is Miss Tennessee Universe and Miss Rhode Island Universe, and she just got here from Puerto Rico. And so Elvis started talking to me, and I thought, because I'm a Memphis girl, I thought he was just being hospitable and inordinately friendly because we were, kindred spirits from Tennessee. So he said, come on in and we'll watch the movie. So we sat down behind his row, and George Klein came and sat next to me. And Elvis kept turning around, showing me this big, beautiful diamond emblazed watch that he had just gotten. And, honey, you like this watch? And it's pretty, isn't it? It's got 1,300 diamonds or whatever. I said, yeah, I like it. And again, I'm green and such a prude. And so he would go like this, roll 'em, and the movie would start. So he very coolly did the roll 'em thing, and the projection started the movie, and neither of us ever remembered what the two movies were. It was a double feature that evening, and he and I could not recall what we watched. But Angie said she'll go back in the records.
Yes, you can look
yes. Angie knows everything. So he got up when the movie started, and he tapped George Klein on the shoulder, walked up past him, tapped him on the shoulder, and George got up and walked back to the lobby. So Jeannie and I were going, oh, we met him, it's so cute. We're doing our little silly girl thing. And I feel someone come and sit next to me, and I think it's George Klein, resuming his position. And I look, and it's Elvis. And I said, oh, to what do we owe this honor? And he was taken aback by that comment. He goes, well, honey, I just wanted to come and sit here and talk to you and get to know you a little better. And again, I'm thinking, oh, he's just being hospitable and friendly because we're both from Tennessee. Then he starts the old, on the chair and starts nuzzling me up. And I thought, oh no, this man is married. I do not date married men. I had no idea that he wasn't married at the time, and I said, Jeannie, we have to go. This is inappropriate. And he leaned over to me and he said, sweetheart, you know I'm not married anymore. And I said, well, no. This got more interesting. I said, no, I had no idea that you weren't married. And he said he had been separated since the previous January, beginning of January, and this was July the 6th, 1972. And I said, I'm really sorry to hear that, but you should have married a Southern girl. And he never forgot that comment. And it rang true to him because he and I were kindred spirits. We did share the same love of family, devotion to family, the same religious fervor, the same upbringing. And if you're raised in the South, you know what I mean. There is a culture all unto its own if you're raised in the South, with everything from the cuisine that we love, my country food, Cracker Barrel.
You've got to get an endorsement.
I've already been. I know. I should be a spokesperson
really
for the
should.
Cracker Barrel.
You need to write their theme song.
I've already been. Had my catfish, turnip greens, and fried okra. I do. And so anyway, we really connected on just a deep level right away. And we started kissing in the movie. It was like we should have been in a drive-in theater. We were making out the whole time, not watching the movie, and talking and laughing and kissing. And when the double feature was over, he said, now, sweetheart, I want you to come to Graceland tomorrow night. I'd like you to meet my dad, and I'm going to show you around my house. I said, oh, that would be great. Yeah, okay, I'll be there. And he said, so let me get your number. And playing it cool, I said, well, I don't have a pen or a piece of paper or anything to write it on. I wanted him to do the work, trying to be hard to get, I guess, which I wasn't. He didn't have to work too hard. So he called Joe Esposito over and he said, Joe, give me something to write on. I want to write down her number. I want her to come to Graceland tomorrow night. And Joe typically he made all of his phone calls. He did everything, for Elvis. And he typically would have written down the number himself, but instead he handed him a matchbook and a pen, and Elvis wrote down my number on the matchbook, which is cliche. Like you said, if this had been a movie, you couldn't have made that up. So he walked me out to my little car. I was a little Vega, and a little blue Vega, no air conditioning, and again, sweltering heat. And kissed me goodnight. He said, is this your car? I said, yeah. I was very proud of it because I had won it from Miss Liberty Bowl. I won Miss Liberty Bowl. I said, I was Miss Liberty Bowl and they gave me this car free. And in his mind, I know now later, he was churning what kind of car can I get her to replace this little piece of crap. Because when I went to Graceland the next night, he again mentioned that little unair-conditioned Vega. So I went to Graceland the next night, and he took us around on the golf carts, and you've all been to Graceland, right? You've all been through the mansion. And in the back field, there were cornrows, literal cornrows that didn't have any corn on them anymore, but they were bumpity, 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 bump. And it was his favorite thing to do, to take us on thrill rides through the cornrows. So Jeannie and Red West were in the back of the golf cart and getting bounced around, because I wanted Jeannie as my backup. She was like my wing woman, you know. I wanted things to be on the up and up. So, you know, he and I just connected, and I stayed there till 4 in the morning, and then I left and went on vacation with my Aunt Betty Sue down to Gulf Shores, Alabama, and was disconnected for 2 weeks. And when I came back from the beach, the phone was ringing, and it was Joe Esposito, and he said, "Where the hell have you been? Elvis, the boss has been looking for you." He said, "I know your number by heart." And Elvis grabbed the phone away from Joe, and he said, "Where the hell have you been? Who do you think I am? I'm Elvis Presley." I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "I told you I was going to go on vacation for 2 weeks." And he said, "You didn't tell me you were going to drop off the face of the earth," because there were no phones, no cell phones then, and we didn't have even a rotary phone in our little beach shack that we were in. So he said, "I want you on a plane. Get on a plane tomorrow morning. I want you in LA. We're going to Vegas to start rehearsals for my Vegas engagement." And I said, I still have sand between my toes. I've never been to Las Vegas. I don't know what to bring. He said, "Don't worry about it. Just get on that plane." So Joe got back on the phone and said, "You know, I'm going to send you a ticket. Be at the airport tomorrow." And Elvis, it was so funny because he said, "Who the hell do you think I am?" He said, "I told you, I want to be with you. That means I want to be with you." I said, "Okay." Sold.
Hard to get. Yeah.
Really hard to get, wasn't it? But oddly enough, you know, even though I was pining over him for those 2 weeks that I was in Gulf Shores, Alabama, listening to his music playing Just Pretend incessantly, "Just pretend I'm holding you," I was pretending. And probably in his estimation, I was playing a little bit hard to get, because I didn't write my number down and say, "Oh, please call me." And I disappeared for 2 weeks, which made him probably a little more desperate to get in touch with me and see me.
Yeah.
And then he got used to me. He knew I was there. I wasn't going anywhere.
And we were talking at the mansion when you said every room, every part of the house has a memory. And one of our people that was on the tour said, you know, where did you spend most of your time? Like in the living room, down in the TV room, and where you spent the majority of the time is one of the. It's the part of Elvis's life that's left that we're not a part of. We haven't seen it. We're not allowed to. And that was his special place.
Yes, and it's not salacious as it sounds, but our favorite place to be was the bedroom, and it was because we were separated, sequestered from the outside world, from even the 13 guys that sat around downstairs waiting for him to come downstairs and hang out with them, watch TV or go to the movies or whatever. And he was always so surrounded by so many people, and so many people that, "Oh, can I get a photo?" Or, you know, "Hey boss, this person wants that." And so when we were at Graceland, we really loved just going up to the bedroom, reading books. We read a lot of spiritual books. He studied religions from all over the world. He used to wear a crucifix and an Egyptian ankh and a Star of David. And I remember a guy asked him one time in Vegas, he said, "Hey Elvis, man, you got all these religious symbols on your neck. Are you confused?" And Elvis said, "No, man, I just don't want to miss heaven on a technicality." So he was just on a quest, you know, to learn as much as he could. So it sounds, you know, kind of sexy. "Oh yeah, our favorite place was the bedroom." But it was just because it was our private refuge. It was our place that we could be sequestered in private and talk and share intimate secrets about each other, and read our books and pray. You know, we prayed together. He was an extraordinary human being, and so vulnerable in so many ways. And I got to see that tender, sweet little boy side of him that is still within all of us. You know, we're all still our little kids that just grew up, but we still have that child within us, and he was very much that way because he was an only child, and very much adored and sheltered by his mom and dad. And speaking of only children, I met Polly. I met your mama.
Yeah.
Tom is an only child too.
I'm an only child from Tupelo. In the course of doing the mansion tours, Angie, we would at the beginning do the photos for the fans because they got them printed out at the end. And then Linda and I would go back into this little part of the annex of the at Graceland, you know, and we would sit and talk. And there's something about her that when you're talking, you just open up and just start.
I'm an open book.
Yeah,
I have nothing to hide.
But the way you're a therapist for people. And Pam was saying that you have a lot of relationships with friends that they come to you for, you know. And I just started, because you were saying, you know, like, tell me about you. Because you've been to Tupelo and been to the birthplace.
Love Tupelo.
Yeah. And I was just talking about growing up there, and my mom, you know, that's the reason I love Elvis and things. And she's a big part of my life that I still she comes to see most of the stuff that I do. And you were like...
You started calling me Dr. Thompson.
Yes, Dr. Thompson.
Yes, therapist.
You know, I was talking about my mom is, she won't mind me saying this, because watch how impressive this is.
She looks great.
Yeah, 94. But she'll be 95 in October. But she's I mean, everybody has that person that brings you into the Elvis world. And then look what I'm doing.
It's amazing.
So,
and you do it so well,
well,
right?
thank you.
Can we give a hand for Tom? And honestly,
It's all about family.
see how I respectfully stand up for you? Okay, that's enough of that.
Thank you.
Give us a hug.
I sort of dozed off. A lot of the videos you've seen of shows, Elvis is leaning over and he'll say, "Be careful." You know, you're trying to get a scarf, and Elvis is pointing. You say, "Be careful, be careful." He's actually saying it on the stage. So we were very cognizant of that, you know, and he appreciated his fans. He told me one time that I used to take him through these little back kitchens and places like that, and one time I told him, I said, "You know, that's dangerous. That's how Bobby Kennedy was shot, you know, going through a kitchen like that. And it's a little bit dangerous." And he said, "I'm going to stop and sign these autographs." And I said, "Well, at least don't ask everybody their name and take a lot of time." And he said, "Look," he said, "these are the people that made me." And he said, "Yeah, a lot of times people didn't know how to spell Elvis. So he said, I like to ask people how to spell their name so that I get it right." And I'm going to tell you something. I ran for judge here, and that got me elected. That little thing right there. Remember somebody's name, and they'll remember you. So, you know, he ingrained in all of us that the fans were the most important thing to him. He loved all of you. I guarantee you that's the truth.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, Elvis had a great love of law enforcement, and you being a member of law enforcement,
He overlooked me, but he did like law enforcement.
He fancied himself to be sort of a member of law enforcement. We had on our car, he got a blue light that he put on the dash, and he would literally run people down. I mean, not run them down, but he would chase them down with the blue light flashing and pull them over and say, "You're speeding." Honey, we had no seatbelts ourselves, you know, but he loved to play cops and robbers, and he became really good friends with the Denver Police Department when we were there, and he got the badge, you know, from President Nixon.
It was Bill Morris. You know,
Bill Morris.
It was funny because he already had one or two of those blue lights. But one year at Christmas in '76, I asked him, I said, "What would you like for Christmas?" He goes, "What do you get, Elvis?" Right?
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I've been watching that Streets of San Francisco show." And he said, "You know that blue light?" He said, "Mine isn't working right now." He said, "I'd like a blue light." And I said, "Well, now, Elvis, you know, that's a police issue. I don't know if I can get you that." He said, "Well, you asked me what I wanted, and I told you." Sounds about right. And I said, "Oh, God, don't give him a ticket."
And even before Tennessee was an open carry state, he had guns everywhere, in his belt and in his boot. So he was packing too.
Yeah. It's one of those kind of things with, we have a part of the bus tour where Angie found this great photo of Elvis over at McCullough Lake, which is actually much closer than you think it is, and it's hidden. And Elvis is in a boat, and they've handed him a book, and on the book it says rules and regulations for the lake. And you can just see Elvis like, really? Really? This is rules and regulations?
So they didn't apply to Elvis.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's just kind of one of those.
In life, period. It was Elvis, and he got away with so much because he was so extraordinary and so lovable and funny and brilliant, and so he got away with a lot.
One of the fans last night reminded me of the story. He's from Nassau County, New York, and in and they were telling me they were at the airport when we landed, and they recounted this story, which I do remember largely, that when Elvis, and back then it was against the law in New York. They had something called the Sullivan Act, and off-duty police officers couldn't even carry guns. So it was kind of a big deal to have weapons. Of course, Elvis always had weapons. So I'm standing at the bottom of a metal jetway with the colonel and Dick Grove and the chief of police. And Elvis comes out, and about 400 fans scream, and when they do, Elvis does this. And 245 automatics slipped down on the inside of that tracksuit that he had. Looked like two rats trying to get out. They hit the top of his shoes and bounced on every metal step of that jet. And they landed at the feet of the chief of police, who turned and looked at me like I had three heads. And Dick looked at, I thought we're going to jail, And Elvis jumps down, bounds down like he would do, walks right up and says, "Hi, Chief, I'm Elvis Presley." Chief picks guns up, hands them to him, and says, "I believe these are yours, Mr. Presley." True stories. And that's, he could get away with anything.
Lottie and Mary in the daytime, and then Pauline and Nancy at night. So, and they would alternate, but those four ladies were our housekeepers. So there was always someone there to cook for him. But he would say, "Sweetheart, would you go down and make me some bacon and eggs?" I would say, "Well, would you like Pauline to do it or Lottie?" No, I want you to do it because you do it with TLC, and it just tastes better when you cook it. I can taste the love. So, because I would make him peanut butter banana sandwiches and things like that. So I went down, and the first time that I ever made him bacon and eggs, I put it on a tray nicely and walked back up the back stairs of Graceland, and we used to put a towel down on the bed and just eat while we were sitting in bed. So I put it in front of him, and he looked at it. He said, "What is this?" And I said, "Well, that's 3 scrambled eggs and 4 slices of bacon and some toast with butter." And honey, when I ask you to make me bacon and eggs, I want to see at least 6 or 8 eggs on the plate, and I want to see half a pound of bacon, and I want to see half a loaf of bread. I won't eat it all, but I'm rich. I just want to know that I'm rich. I used to be hungry when I was a kid, and he says, and I want to see a lot of food in front of me, and I won't eat it all, but I'm rich now, and I want to see it in front of me. A little child, he would sit cross-legged in the bed, and when he was trying to watch his weight, which was often, he would eat honeydew melon at night. So he would sit there with his little honeydew melon, and every bite he would do a little dance, like, it tastes so good. He would do this little dance while he was sitting cross-legged in bed, and I'll never forget.
Oh yeah, he said, "Well, let me ask you." I said, "Well, hold on a second. Is Josh?" "Oh yeah, don't worry about that, but let me ask you a question." It just opened doors, and it still does. It still does.
Play the Elvis card.
Play the Elvis card.
Trying to do it. Yeah, well, that's good.
I wrote Josh Groban's first hit, "To Where You Are," and it was inspired by my love of Elvis and the loss of Elvis. It's called "To Where You Are," and it was featured in Ally McBeal, and it was Josh Groban's first hit.
Oh, wow.
And I wrote the lyrics.
And my sweets, and he picked another ring up and handed it out to the audience. And so when we got Elvis in the limo to leave, Lowell's beating on the window, which he almost never did. And so Elvis says, "Let him in." So we let him in, and he's sitting there, he's just nervous. He said, "Elvis, He said, I should never have come. You gave away something like $80,000 in jewels tonight. And Elvis leaned over and said, Lowell, tomorrow night I'll sing 15 minutes longer. And that just encapsulates the way he felt about tangible things. It just didn't mean anything to him.
And he derived such great joy in giving. And he used to say to me, it's a far greater joy and privilege to give than to receive. And he literally felt that way. He derived so much joy from giving things to people, and especially exorbitant gifts like that no one would expect. And he said just the look on the faces, it fortifies him. You know, he really, really enjoyed it.
And here's Linda's Thompson's book. If you want to hear some intimate details, this is the book for you.